I'm Tom. I met Charlotte in 2017 and we knew straight away that we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together. We both have complex medical conditions and require 24-hour care. We have a personal health budget and a team of personal assistants. We're loving life right now, but it's not always been simple. This is our story.
I'm Ian, Tom's dad. Tom was born a healthy baby boy. Then came the diagnosis, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. The doctor told us that Tom would be in a wheelchair by the end of primary school and that his life expectancy was late teens, early 20s. We were absolutely devastated. No parent should have their child die before them. And we felt the future that we'd imagined for Tom fade away.
My early childhood years were very happy. I didn't have much of an understanding of my condition. I just knew that I had poorly legs, that's all I knew. My best friend was Kieran. He had DMD like me. You can see us in this photo messing around at school together when we were 13. Sadly, not long after this photo was taken, Kieran died of DMD-related heart complications. Losing my friend absolutely devastated me. And it's also the first time I realised that my condition was fatal. My Christian faith got me through some difficult teenage years, and it was my ambition to go to Bible college. But there were some who felt that this would be too challenging for me. However, I did manage to secure myself a place, and I left with a bachelor's degree in theology. People started making comments that I was inspirational and that they were expecting big things from me. As encouraging as these comments were, eventually they went from stroking my ego to feeling like quite a heavy burden. I was reliant on my parents for every little thing and had little control over my life. I started to feel like a failure and a fraud, and I slowly sank into depression. I remember lying in bed at night thinking about the day that my parents would no longer be able to look after me and that I'd end up in a care home, forgotten. This terrified me.
There's something a bit different about Charlotte. It's what my parents heard at every parents' evening. I felt totally lost on the playgrounds, and I really struggled to understand social rules and understand the rules of play. And I was also physically uncoordinated, and I suffered from really severe muscle cramps that didn't really have any explanation. At age 14, I was diagnosed with autism. This really helped me to understand myself better and see the positives in some of my differences. However, my physical challenges continued to progress with no explanation. I got a place to study physics at Nottingham at university in 2009. And despite ongoing health issues, I was really excited. And initially I really thrived at university, but the deterioration in my health was kind of increasing and sort of reaching crisis point. In my second year, I developed a severe chest infection. And I remember coming round in the back of the ambulance and looking back at my student house as I was being driven away. I didn't realise that as I drove away, I was leaving behind that life forever. It was on my 21st birthday that I was diagnosed with a progressive and life-limiting muscle weakening condition. I felt that I should have been at the peak of my life celebrating my birthday, and in fact, I was having to come to terms with, having a limited life expectancy and knowing that I would need care for the rest of my life. My condition began to progress quite rapidly. I became wheelchair bound and spent 2.5 years in a residential care home, but I just felt like society now saw me as something that was broken and to be thrown away. And I think one occasion that I will never forget from that time was when I was having a shower and a member of staff forgot I was in the shower. The water cut out and my towel was just out of reach, and I just sat there sort of naked and shivering for half an hour until somebody remembered me. And I remember just feeling like all of my dignity had just been stripped away.
I think when we met for the first time, we were both in really dark places.
Yeah, I just moved into a bungalow of my own supported by living carers, and I was gradually coming to terms of having a disability, but I still felt that my needs and my care just dictated, everything in my life. Dating was something that was definitely not on my agenda at that time. However, it was at my mum's and on my sister's, and they persuaded me to join a dating site, and I reluctantly agreed.
When I saw your profile, I was intrigued. Your big, blue, misty eyes really drew me in. I sent you a message and you responded very quickly and enthusiastically.
Yeah. It's completely out of my character and I will never be able to explain it, but for some reason, the moment I saw Tom's profile picture, I just blurted out, "Oh, this is the man I'm gonna marry," and just kind of instantly fell in love with him. And I'm genuinely quite good at getting my own way.
Our first date was great, but unusual. We went to Nando's, pretty standard. But because Charlotte couldn't look after me or feed me, my dad had to come along, and my mum came too, with the child they were fostering at the time.
Yeah, our first kiss didn't really go quite as expected either. I sort of leant over in my wheelchair, then lost my balance and just sort of face planted into Tom's lap.
When I asked Charlotte to marry me, I was so happy, but so nervous.
He did an amazing job.
Then we had a bumpy ride back down to reality.
Yeah, we'd realised that living together wasn't going to be straightforward. We'd need a large care package and adaptations to my bungalow, but I don't think we'd really appreciated how complicated it would be. To our amazement, every agency we spoke to acted as if they'd never come across two disabled people wanting to get married and live together before. It was just like we were hitting one roadblock after another. We were made to feel like we were making an unreasonable request in wanting to be married. At one point, it was suggested that the only way we could be together was to both move into a residential care home.
This just wasn't the life that we wanted. It was a really disheartening time.
By chance, we were involved in some patient participation work where we heard about personal health budgets for the first time. And this is essentially a way of spending NHS money on somebody in a more personalised way to find creative solutions to their individual needs.
The process of getting our PHB was not always easy. PHBs were fairly new in our area, and we just felt like we were getting lost in a world of assessment, criteria, terminology, and policy.
But what made it different to all the avenues we'd explored before was the fact that we were at the centre of the process. I think it was the first time somebody had asked us what mattered to us the most and what our goals in life were. And the idea of us getting married and living together was treated as an exciting prospect rather than just a challenge or an inconvenience or a pipe dream.
Eventually, it was agreed that we could have a budget to enable us to employ a team of PAs to provide the 24-hour care and support that we needed. Parsley, sage, rosemary and thyme. Then a bit of cheese and Many people have support in the logistics of managing their budget, but Charlotte and I decided to manage our PAs and the budget directly ourselves. This was a huge decision because it does come with a lot of responsibility, but one of the goals in our support plan was to develop independent living skills. When I moved out of my parents and moved in with Charlotte, I was lacking in some of these skills. Having the responsibility of being an employer has not only given me some valuable life experiences, but it's also taught me to deal with conflict and communicate as an adult. It's really enabled me to take control of all aspects of my life.
The relationship we have with our PAs is totally different from any care relationship I've experienced before. Seems like a lot of work for 2 sausage rolls, but...
They look nice, though.
Yeah. It's complicated, but we have a lot of control over who works for us and when. We get to choose individuals that we can relate to and that match our personalities. And the PAs that we have working for us at the moment, we really have learnt to trust, and they've become more like members of our extended family. This was never more true than on our wedding day. Without our PAs, this day wouldn't have happened, and it was a real privilege of having them involved in that and just making that happen for us.
Having our PAs essentially means that we can do what we want, when we want, and it's that flexibility that gives us the lifestyle that we want.
Tom and Charlotte have been talking to me about their new home group that they're starting.
Our Christian faith is central to who we are, and a huge part of that is loving people, cooking for them, and entertaining them in our home. You see, we don't just want to be people that are looked after, but we really want to be also people that give to society as well.
Our PHB just helps us enjoy all the normal aspects of life, like looking after Junebug, going out and about, socialising, enjoying hobbies, just chilling out together. And also just the mundane parts of life. I even enjoy doing housework with my PAs, because I think when you've lost control over those things, they matter.
You ready, Tom?
I'm ready. Of course, to do all of these things, we need to stay physically well as well. The consistency and continuity that our PA team provides is absolutely essential to this. Our PAs are trained to meet our very specific healthcare needs. For instance, we've got very weak respiratory muscles, and so we need ventilation support. When we go to sleep, we are dependent on our ventilators and therefore dependent on our PAs to monitor us and make sure that they keep us alive. We also need them to carry out respiratory physio and to monitor us for signs of infection.
We work with a team of NHS nurses to make sure that our PAs have all the training that they need. I regularly teach my PAs how and when to administer injected medications in an emergency, and this alone has prevented many unnecessary trips to A&E. PHBs are not about saving money, but they're about using the funds that are already available to a person in the most effective way. For us, our PHB has improved our health so much that we've seen a significant reduction in hospital and GP visits, infections and other avoidable health costs. Something else we've been able to do with the PHB is employ a massage therapist who, with the support of the community neurophysio, helps us work on specific therapeutic goals. And this has really improved our joint mobility and pain control and circulation. But I think in terms of value, the biggest change a PHP brings to a person is the added value in terms of quality of life.
If you're considering a personal health budget, I'd really encourage you to raise your aspirations. Don't be afraid to have big dreams for your future, because I never thought that I would leave my parents' home and move in with Charlotte and have the responsibilities that I have. But with the right support, it is possible.
Ultimately, we're just extremely grateful that we've had this opportunity to have a PHP. We just simply wouldn't have the quality of life that we do without it.